What do Ronald Reagan, Air Force One, Hollywood Westerns, the Cold War, and a piece of the Berlin Wall have in common? They're all here. Today we're taking you inside the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum in Simi Valley, California. And during our visit, we also discovered something especially interesting, a temporary exhibit called Cowboys in Cinema, exploring the connections between the American cowboy and the movies that helped turn the West into an American legend. So we're going inside to find out how the Hollywood actor became the President of the United States, how Ronald Reagan became one of the defining figures of the Cold War, and why this museum is about so much more than politics. Welcome to History, Hounds, and Happy Campers. I'm Amanda, one part of a trio of our family that is a road tripping, RV loving, and who loves history, interesting destinations, camping, and finding the stories behind the places they visit. Lua is also joining us. She's our Great Pyrenees. She's our travel companion and our four-legged member of our History Hounds team. And I'm also joined by Laura. She's our mom and helps us make sure we stay on the road. On this channel, we visit historic places, National Park Service sites, presidential sites, ghost towns, museums, scenic destinations, and the places that make you stop and ask, what happened here? We don't just want to show you where to go, we want to tell you why it matters. So if you enjoy history, travel, RV adventures, camping, and just discovering places with a story, subscribe and come along with us on this journey. Before we go inside, there's an important travel tip for anybody traveling with a dog on this journey. Pets are not allowed inside the Reagan Library or on the museum grounds unless they qualify as working or service animals. So if you're coming with your RV, make sure you leave them outside in your trailer on a nice cool day, or leave the air on for them so they can be comfortable. We show you the amazing parts of a destination, but also will tell you the practical details you need before you arrive, especially when traveling with your history hound. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Library Museum is located at 40 Presidential Drive in Simi Valley, California. And before you even walk through the doors, the setting tells you this isn't a small museum. The library sits on a hill overlooking the surrounding landscape, and the grounds themselves make the arrival feel more like visiting a major historical destination than simply stopping at a museum. As you travel up the winding road, you are welcomed by pictures of each of the presidents in the order that they served. But the real surprises are waiting inside. If you're planning your own visit, the museum is currently open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The museum is self-guided, and the library recommends allowing about 2.5 to 3 hours to see all the galleries and exhibits. It depends on how much you want to read all the little signs. General admission is currently $29.95 US dollars in the current 2026 pricing period, and parking is free. For RV travelers, there's another important detail. The regular visitor parking lot is too narrow for RVs, so RV parking is located along Presidential Drive itself. And the library warns that some GPS systems can send visitors towards the Tierra Rajada, which does not lead to the library. So make sure you're traveling on the correct road. You'll see it when you turn off the main road. There's a big sign that says the library. So check your route before you arrive. The official Reagan Library visitors information currently lists its hours, admission, free parking, recommended visit time, and RV parking instructions. So check the website for its current hours and admission prices. So who exactly was Ronald Reagan? And how does a Hollywood actor end up becoming a president of the United States? Reagan was born in Illinois in the year 1911. He began his professional career in radio before moving into Hollywood. He appeared in dozens of films and became a recognizable Hollywood personality. He also served as president of the Screen Actors Guild. Then his career took another turn. Reagan entered California politics, was elected governor in 1966, and served from 1967 through 1975. And from there, his political career continued toward the White House. It's an extraordinary path. Illinois, radio, Hollywood, California governor, and then President of the United States. During our visit, the library also had a temporary exhibit called Cowboys in Cinema, and this turned out to be a surprisingly good fit for the Reagan story. The American cowboy has been one of the most recognizable symbols in the American popular culture for more than a century. Hollywood didn't simply make Western movies, it helped create the image of the American West that millions of people grew up watching. And Ronald Reagan was part of that world. Before he was president standing behind a podium, he was a Hollywood actor appearing on screens across America.
Good enough? Come on over to the house, Farrell.
So this temporary exhibit gives us another way to understand Reagan, not just as a politician, but as a part of the entertainment industry that helped shape how the Americans imagined the West. Reagan's Hollywood career is one of the most interesting pieces of the story. He made dozens of films and spent years in front of the cameras. That experience eventually became useful in politics. Reagan became known as the great communicator, and while that reputation came from his presidency, the ability to speak to an audience had been developing for decades. He understood television, he understood presentation, and perhaps, most importantly, he understood how to turn complicated subjects into stories people could remember.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the last 6 months, I've been traveling up and down the state, meeting as many of you as I could, answering questions and asking a few. There isn't any secret as to why I've been doing this. I've said, as you've been told, that I'll be a candidate for public office once I found the answers to a few questions myself, mainly about my acceptability to you. Who'd like to be governor isn't important. Who the people would like to have as governor is very important. This is a big state. It's been described as more like a nation than a state. I've used plane, train, and automobile in these last 6 months. I've been on a California street 8,000 feet above sea level and one a couple of 100 feet below sea level. I've thrown a snowball and watched water skiers all in the same day. And I haven't begun to cover the state. Actually, I think you could spend a lifetime just seeing and getting to know California.
California became a major part of Reagan's political identity. He was elected governor in 1966 and served 2 terms. His administration emphasized smaller government, lower taxes, spending restraint, and a more conservative approach to the government. After leaving the governor's office, Reagan remained a major figure in national politics. Then came the year 1980.
My fellow Americans, it's been nearly 3 years since I first spoke to you from this room. Together we've faced many difficult problems, and I've come to feel a special bond of kinship with each one of you.
Reagan won the 1980 presidential election at a difficult moment in the United States. Inflation was high, unemployment was high, the Cold War was intensifying, and the country was dealing with the Iran hostage crisis. On January 20th, 1981, Ronald Reagan became the 40th president of the United States. But only 69 days into his presidency, Reagan faced a shocking moment that could have ended his life.
It was then that 6 shots rang out, shots fired at close range from a .22 caliber pistol. At least 4 of the bullets found a target. One of them, the President of the United States.
On March 30th, 1981, John Hinckley Jr. fired 6 shots at Reagan as the president left the Washington Hilton. Reagan was struck by a bullet that ricocheted off the presidential limousine. Press Secretary James Brady was seriously wounded. Washington police officer Thomas Delaney was wounded, and Secret Service agent Thomas McCarthy was wounded while shielding the president. Reagan survived, and when you're standing in a museum surrounded by artifacts from this period, the history becomes much more than a date on a timeline. It became a real event involving real people. And when you turn the corner, you see this. The Oval Office. This is a full-size reproduction of the Oval Office as it appeared during the Reagan's presidency. It's easy to walk into a room like this, take a photograph, and move on. But stop for a moment. Think about what happened in a room like this. Foreign policy decisions, military decisions, economic policy, national emergencies, presidential meetings, and the Cold War. For travelers interested in presidential history, this is one of the areas where slowing down really pays off. And look for the jelly beans on his desk. Reagan was a fan of jelly beans, and we went into 2 of his presidential planes, and both of them contained jelly beans.
Pronunciation may give you difficulty. The maxim is, dovii no provii. Trust but verify.
You repeat that at every meeting.
If there's one subject that defines Reagan's presidency, it's probably the Cold War. For decades, the United States and Soviet Union were locked in a global confrontation. Political, military, economic, ideological, and underneath all of it was a terrifying possibility of nuclear war. Reagan initially took a hard line toward the Soviet Union, but eventually the story changed. He began negotiating directly with the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, and that creates one of the more interesting contradictions of the Reagan presidency. It wasn't simply a story of confrontation, it eventually became a story of negotiation and arms control. And then you see a piece of the Berlin Wall. The wall becomes one of the most powerful symbols of the Cold War. East and West, communism and democracy, a divided Europe. And in 1987, Reagan stood at the Brandenburg Gate and delivered one of the most famous speeches of his presidency.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
2 years later, the Berlin Wall fell. Reagan was no longer president by then, but the end of the Cold War became a major part of his historical legacy. And seeing a physical piece of that wall here makes a distant event feel remarkably close. But a serious look at Reagan's presidency can't only focus on the victories. His administration also faced major controversies. One of the biggest was the Iran-Contra affair. In 1986, the administration became embroiled in a scandal involving secret arms sales to Iran and the diversion of funds associated with the Nicaraguan Contras. It became one of the most serious political crises of Reagan's presidency, and this is an important lesson when visiting presidential museums. Don't just look for the flattering history. Look for the complicated history. Look for the controversies. Look for the decisions people still debate, because that's how you get the history instead of the mythology. Reagan's presidency also included moments of enormous national tragedy.
1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart shortly after launch. Seven astronauts were killed. That night, Reagan addressed the nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd planned to speak to you tonight to report on the State of the Union. But the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger.
The speech became one of the most remembered presidential addresses connected to the national tragedy. And once again, the museum reminds us that the presidents aren't only there to celebrate victories. They can also become the voice of the country when something goes terribly wrong. Then came the 1984 presidential election. Reagan won re-election in one of the largest electoral college victories in American history. He carried 49 states. He won 525 electoral votes, and he received about 59% of the popular vote. Look at the map. It's an extraordinary picture of how broad his political support had become. And now we get to the part that may make this museum worth the price of admission all by itself. Air Force One. Not a replica, not a movie prop, an actual presidential aircraft. This aircraft serves as a flying White House for Ronald Reagan and 6 other presidents from the years 1973 through 2001, and visitors can walk through it. You can see the presidential work areas, the conference spaces, the seats, the cockpit, and suddenly the idea of presidential travel becomes very real. For a travel channel, there's something fitting about that. We spend so much time talking about road trips and travel. Presidents travel too. They just get a substantially larger airplane. There's a few places that we've visited presidential aircraft. You can see them in our future episodes about Dayton, Ohio. We went on lots of presidential airplanes there at the Air Force Museum. We also went on one of the presidential airplanes in Outwater, California at Castle Air Force Base. That is also tied to the Reagan era. In addition to Air Force One, you can also go on Marine One, which was a nice treat for us, which is the helicopter that the president flew on. And this is where cowboy cinema really ties the visit together. You go from the Cold War to the presidency to Air Force One and then back into the world of Hollywood and Western films. The cowboy became one of America's most recognizable cultural symbols. Hollywood helped turn the symbol into an international image of the American West. And Ronald Reagan was part of that story. So the temporary exhibit adds another layer to the museum. It helps explain the world Reagan came from before politics, Hollywood, film, Western culture, and the power of storytelling. This is also the site of Mr. and Mrs. Reagan's final resting site. So you can go out and they're overlooking the bluff of this valley below, and you can pay your respects to this president. If you go down the stairs around the corner of Air Force One, there's also a treat there. There's a few more aircraft that you can take pictures with. Well, that's my favorite airplane. If you're planning a Southern California road trip, I would treat the Reagan Library as a half-day destination. The museum is self-guided and the library recommends around 2.5 hours to 3 hours to see everything. That gives you enough time to move through the presidential galleries without feeling rushed. See Air Force One, visit the temporary exhibits, spend time with the Berlin Wall, and explore the grounds. And because this is more than just a travel stop, give yourself enough time to actually read the exhibits. There's a lot of history packed into this building. For RV travelers, remember that the regular visitor parking area isn't designed for RVs. The RV parking is available on Presidential Drive. Overnight parking is not permitted. And check your GPS before arriving because the library warns that some navigation systems can direct visitors incorrectly. And when you bring your history hounds, plan ahead because pets are not permitted inside the museum or on the grounds unless they qualify as working or service animals. We recommend checking the current pet rule before visiting any museum, historic site, or attractions because those policies can change and vary with visits. So, Is the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library worth visiting? For us, absolutely. And you don't have to be a Reagan supporter to appreciate what is here. You don't have to agree with his politics. What makes this place worth visiting is the sheer amount of history packed into one location. You can follow a man from Illinois, to radio, to Hollywood, to California governor, to the White House. You can walk inside Air Force One. You can go inside Marine One. You can see the presidential motorcade, stand in a recreation of the Oval Office, see a piece of the Berlin Wall, pay your respects to a president, learn about the Cold War, explore presidential controversies, and during our visit, see cowboy and cinema and the connection between Hollywood's Western culture and Reagan's career. That's what we love about History Hounds and Happy Campers. We want to take you somewhere interesting, tell you the story, give you practical information, and let you decide whether it's worth adding to your own road trip. So if you enjoy American history, road trips, RV travel, historic places, camping, and a big fluffy Great Pyrenees named Lua, subscribe to History Hounds and Happy Campers. Give this video a like and tell us in the comments, would you visit the Reagan Library for the presidential history, Air Force One, the Cold War, or cowboy cinema? We read all the comments and love to know what you think. And come back for our next adventure, because around here, we're always looking for the story behind the stop. We post new videos every Friday and would love to have you. Thanks for coming along with us, and we'll see you on the next ridge. Keep your history deep and your trails happy, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye!